Hello everybody and welcome to Adobe Live. My name is Flynn. I'm here with Kitiya Palaskas. Very excited to be here. We would like to begin first by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we are creating and streaming from today, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'm very excited to be here for the second part of a two-part series. Johanna got to jump on yesterday, but I get to be here today. Excited to see you, Kit. How are you doing?
I'm excited to be here. I hope you're doing well as well.
I am. Thank you. Thank you very much. I was a little bit under the weather yesterday, so I'm excited to be back at it just a little bit more. We are live, so if you have any questions as we're rolling along, please don't hesitate to throw them in chat. It's always great to have questions, find out where you guys are from, what's going on. We're going to be jumping into a little bit of Express today as well, which I think we sort of teased a little bit towards yesterday's stream with Kit and Johanna. So I'm so keen to be here because I don't use Express as much as I should. So you're going to get a lot of questions from me, Kit. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, that's fine. I'm happy to answer them. I love Express. I'm an Express ambassador and I use it all the time in my day-to-day, I guess, like business marketing operations. And I'll talk a little bit about that today. I thought I might start by just quickly recapping some of the little things we did yesterday in the stream for anyone that needs a refresher or perhaps couldn't make that stream. You can catch up though on the recording of yesterday's one after this if you'd like. So I was just showing yesterday how I take actual 3D hand cut felt elements that I've cut and collaged in the 3D world.
Yeah.
In the real world.
In the real life felt.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how I put them through Photoshop and kind of clean them up using the healing tool and add a little bit of texture using the noise tool and prepare them to actually be put into either, any sort of, sometimes it's videos in Premiere Pro, sometimes it's artworks that I've created in Illustrator or in Photoshop or in Express and use them for digital assets for, I guess, creating stuff for clients or creating stuff for my own marketing collateral for my brand.
Yeah.
I was really excited yesterday because we were doing a Valentine's kind of themed. I was doing some Valentine's elements because yesterday was Valentine's Day. And I actually totally forgot to show you the last step of my process after I've kind of like cleaned things up, cut them out, added a bit of texture to them. I add a drop shadow. So I just really wanted to show you. Seasoned Photoshop users will know how to add a drop shadow, but I just want to show you kind of how I do it for my felt things because I kind of want them to look as realistic as possible. I mean, I know they're real, but I want that sort of, I'm really interested in my work in playing with like subverting reality. So you're looking at something that's really highly textural, but you're looking at it through a screen. Or in my prop making work, I'm creating a giant version of a normal object as a prop. So you're kind of like, whoa, what's happening there? So with that in mind, I like to kind of add a shadow because I like it to sort of look as if the felt pieces or the paper pieces are kind of like floating on the screen.
Yeah, and that's got to like add, like there are certain places to use drop shadow, right? And this is one of them because you want it to look as realistic as possible. I have such a love-hate relationship with drop shadows. I feel like most people do drop shadows like way too strong when it's digital. Like it'll be like a digital button and it's like, all right, let's do a 75% black shadow. It extends out this far. And I often feel people overdo it.
Too much.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's just a little subtle shadow. And I always sort of keep in mind what direction the shadow is going in if I'm using multiple different assets, because there's nothing that ruins the illusion than having your shadow be like all over the place. So in this instance, it's sort of like bottom left. And it's just, I use around like 50 to 60% opacity. And I don't make it huge, like with the spread that much. I just kind of like pull it real back. It's just subtle. It's just there.
I mean, you can get away with a lot more here because it is actually, you're imitating real life, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, with this heart one, you can see it's just real subtle there. And it kind of just adds a little something, as we'll see when we jump into Express in a minute. But anyway, that was what I forgot to show everyone yesterday. Because sometimes I get so deep in the like editing mode. Like I was just, cleaning up all the little hairs and
Yeah.
things like that, and then adding some texture, and I sort of got swept away with my own meditative editing of my felt creation.
It can be hard when like converting it to live as well, because you might spend a lot more time doing something, right? Like trying to get it meticulously perfect, exactly what you want. You're like, oh my gosh, we got to wrap up. Yeah.
So anyway, this is kind of what it ends up looking like, and I save it as a transparent PNG file because obviously it's a collageable element, so we want to create some digital collage with it. So then I go into Express, and so before I kind of show you how I am going to use those felt elements within my Express project, I just wanted to give a quick recap about Express itself. I mean, I use it every day, but I always forget that, not everyone does. So I wanted to show some of my favorite features. I sort of touched on it a bit yesterday, but again, we like a bit of reiteration. So I'm going to sort of like go over some of the main things in case you didn't know what's available in Adobe Express. So I kind of look at Adobe Express as like a pulling together of all the best or most used like parts of other Adobe programs like Premiere, Illustrator, and Photoshop, but all packaged up in this really easy to access and easy to use, quick to use, little powerful pocket rocket of a program.
Rocket. They need to rebrand again. Pocket Rocket would be great.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing to note about it is that there are all these incredible templates that are sort of already created. I mean, I guess in terms of use, how I use Adobe Express is to generate marketing assets for my business, to promote them across social media, across, YouTube, to create press releases, anything that needs to have a really strong visual and cohesive visual identity, I'll use Express for. But I also use it occasionally to create branding assets for clients. I don't do that much branding work, but when I do, it's really helpful to have templates made up in Express that you can then, share with the client so that they're able to just go in and adapt and use easily. So I'm just sort of scrolling through, so you can see even just on the home page here that there's lots of different kinds of templates. There's thousands of them, and the designers in the Adobe Express template design team are incredible. And so they're really, this sounds so geeky, but they're really like on trend. That I can't believe I just said that. I hate it when people say that to me in like a briefing meeting or something. Make something on trend. But yeah, they're really like, they're not daggy. They're like beautiful.
Yeah. But there's something like, obviously, like trends exist for a reason. Like when it comes to something like marketing and getting people's attention, being part of the trend is like probably the best time to ever be on trend, right? Like for a campaign or marketing, I think trends are great. I think often for branding, it can be overused. You got to be a little bit more careful in that space. But if it's like a temporary thing,
Yeah, and the good thing about this is that you can sort of like adapt. So if you think, it's too like, they're using too much of millennial pink, for example, you can like change the color.
Millennial pink. Oh my gosh.
My favorite color.
I'm learning so many cool phrases today.
So I just want to give you a quick tour. So obviously there's this dashboard here. On the left-hand side, you can sort of start creating a project, and it sort of brings up all these like sort of common sort of things quick actions, so things you might want to do with your files. So like I said, it's sort of like pulling in all those elements of the other Creative Suite programs that you might use, but sort of simplifying them and making them really easy for you to access all of them at once, so you don't have to like jump in between lots of different programs. And then you can sort of create a custom sized graphic, or you can create based on standard sizes of things like Instagram posts, YouTube thumbnails, print documents, that kind of thing. Then there's this section here where all your projects get stored. I'm just going to give you like a sneak peek of some of the weird things I've been making recently. I made some crazy digital holiday cards, and you can create folders here to organize all your projects. So it's like a filing system, which is really good. There's a brand section, which I did touch on yesterday, but I want to show you again. This is where you can upload things like your brand colors, your fonts, your logos, and you can sort of adapt, I guess, the style guide of how you want all these things to show up in your Express projects. So I think that's really good. This is very handy because when you are within your artboard, which I'm going to show you in a minute, you can just bring in these elements at the touch of a button, and also it'll suggest your font. Yeah, it'll suggest your font to you immediately. It'll suggest all the colors to you, so they're always just accessible. So you don't have to have them like on a piece of paper like I have here with all my like brand color hex codes.
I love that.
On this scrap of paper that I just stuck to my computer. Like, it's great because it's already got it within Express. I don't have to remember all these numbers and letters.
Total sidetrack. I love that you've done that, and I love that it's color coded, which is amazing. Like, the only notes I have, I've always done that. Like, anything that I always constantly referencing, rather than having it on my computer, I have it like taped in a post-it note or something on my screen. The only post-it note I have here is record, because so often I used to do a live stream and I forget to record the whole thing as a bit of a
that's a good one. I'm the kind of person that, like, even at home, despite living in my house for 8 years now, I can't remember like what light switch turns on. Which light switch? I know. In my house.
Yeah.
So I need like the full color coded like instructional thing right in front of my eyes in order for me to be able to do anything. So if you're like me, shout out in the chat, because I want to know that I'm not alone here.
I just have a quick question as well, just as we're chatting. So Alessandra asked, just like the overuse of drop shadow, is there another are there other design / brand things you've come across in your career that people overuse?
Oh, I mean, yes, the Live, Laugh, Love font. I don't know if you know that font. You probably do know that font. I know that font. That sort of hand script. I mean, I love hand-drawn type. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. And my husband is a sign writer, so he does that stuff for a living. But that one particular, brush font, I think that's been done to death now. And I think it needs to go away or be replaced by something else. What about you, Flynn?
I mean, so many fonts, but I think my biggest pet peeve is seeing usually a scripted font, or when something's been hand done and there's multiple versions of the same letter that are exactly the same.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So if like you're like going or something, and the G at the front is identical to the G at the end. But it's like a scripted, it's supposed to be handwritten. Nothing screams, this is digital and I picked the font more. Yes.
Well, that's quite pertinent to the handmade theme of today. So
it is.
Nice
there we go.
Segue there.
Thanks for the question, Alessandra. That's great.
Yeah, that was a great question. So then you have access to your Creative Cloud libraries from within Express, which is so good, because it means you can create the graphics in Photoshop like I did, save them into your Creative Cloud library, and then they're all here in this folder, ready for you to access and just pop into your artworks or your projects at the click of a button. So I really love that kind of like cross use functionality between Express and all the other programs that you might use regularly in your like design workflow. And then we did talk about this yesterday as well, but there is now this content scheduler within Adobe Express, which is so good because you can connect to all your different social platforms. As a brand or as someone that works with brands, this is gold, because you can actually schedule directly from the designs you've created in Express without having to jump out, save them onto your computer, jump out into another scheduling program, and then sort of work. I think it gets so confusing when you have to work between lots of different types of programs that maybe don't function together seamlessly.
Totally. I mean, even just sharing the file, like I know usually my process is I need to upload things to Dropbox and then go into Dropbox, download the photo, then upload it on the phone, and then add in all sorts of stuff. So yeah. Sometimes you just don't have time to do that as well. Right. And then suddenly you look at your socials and you're like, oh, I haven't done anything for like 2 weeks because I just haven't found the time. So anything to speed that up.
Honestly, and like that's what this is so good for. But also like I run a small business. I have one staff member. I still have to do so much stuff by myself. And so I can't be spending 3 hours in and out of different programs trying to get this one file. So this is really good for me because I'm all about like working, I was going to say harder, not smarter, but it's smarter, not harder. And just streamlining everything, especially marketing. Because honestly, marketing, if you are a small business owner, a small creative business, it's a full-time job. And sometimes like you spend too much time doing that and not enough time actually doing the creative side of things, which is what your whole career is about in the first place. So yes. Anyway, let's have a look at, so this is, whoops, not that one. this is a template that I designed for Adobe Express a couple of years ago now, and I thought I would use this and remix it to create this, which is my over-the-top Valentine's Day workshop promo post that I could potentially use on Instagram, using all of those elements that we edited and played around with yesterday in Photoshop. So I guess you can kind of see here like how the drop shadow is working, and I think it does kind of, in my opinion anyway, it does give that sort of collage scrapbook kind of feel, which is what my work is basically, a lot of my illustrative work anyway is all about. It's collage. So I like to bring that across, and it means that I can use things like, for example, animations, and I can use, you know, really crisp fonts and use my brand fonts and things like that, and insert my logo, but still retain that handmade feel, which I think is like really important for my brand.
Yeah.
So, but I will say that, you know, like you can incorporate any kind of other elements that you create. If you create animations in After Effects, or if you use Illustrator, all of these little bits and pieces that you make, these assets can be brought in and turned into different sorts of things within Express.
It's so cool. I love the animation stuff in here, because especially for social and everything, right? Like the difference between a static image and a video or GIF, like in terms of engagement, like, which is the whole point of uploading in the first place. Like even a subtle animation can have people pause for a little bit and actually look at it and go, oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah,
and I mean, like they do say video is key now.
Yeah.
I was going to say on trend again, but I'm not going to say that again.
You've run out of on trend points. Yeah.
Video, I mean, we are all, you know, captivated by short form video these days. So if you can sort of make your posts on social media more dynamic, I guess that's a really good way to capture the attention in like a saturated sort of landscape.
Yeah.
Promote yourself as a creative professional. So if you want to remix a template, let's go back to the homepage. All you have to do is find whatever template you want. And I encourage you, I mean, I could spend a whole session just show and telling all the cool templates, but I'm not going to today. But you could find a cool one that you like, and you just hover over it and it says start from. And when you click on that, it opens it up into this artboard, or this creating sort of project board where we are right now. And then you can literally just start customizing all the different bits of it. And so I just wanted to show you like a little bit of, I want to show you around here. Oh, I've clicked on something. Hopefully you can't see. Move that out of the way. Yep. So I just wanted to show you a couple of the elements of what's in the project board and what's available to you in terms of like editing. And then we're going to kind of go in and change this, transform it, remix it, as they say, into like the new design. So first of all, you don't have to have created all the elements yourself. So maybe you're a creative professional, but you know, you don't have a suite of hand-drawn assets to insert into like every single project. That's fine. Or maybe you don't have backgrounds that you want to use. I guess one of the first things to kind of look at along this left-hand side of your project board is this background section. So if you open it up, there's literally thousands of backgrounds that are available for you to use, and they're all they all belong to, I guess, like the Adobe world. So you can use them for any kind of like promotional stuff that you're doing, or commercial kind of like things that you're doing. They're licensed, so that's really awesome. I will note that anytime you see something with a little crown on it, means that's the paid subscription to Creative Cloud or to Express. And then anything that doesn't have the crown is, you don't actually need an Express subscription. But you might not know this, but if you have the Creative Cloud suite already, you have Express.
Right.
And I do believe it comes with the Photoshop subscription too, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, so there's also like the free version of Express is amazing as well. So if you just want to try it out and you don't maybe not yet have the full Creative Cloud subscription, like there's heaps of amazing things that you can still use within here. it's really great like that. So
yeah,
love
I mean,
that.
at the very least you can try it out, right? And then
Yeah,
you know, if there's
exactly.
value for you, like jump in there for sure. There's something really nice, like we're in such a world of like licensing and copyright and everything, especially with what like AI is happening and everything like that. It's really nice to just know that you're safe with certain
Oh, it's such a
assets.
relief. Yeah, it's such a relief to just be like, yep, I can just use this strappy background and I'm not going to get in trouble
It's
from
all
anyone.
good. Yeah, no matter what. Yeah, there's something nice about that.
So there's all sorts of different backgrounds, there's textures and things like that. In this particular artwork, I have used a texture that I actually have in my Creative Cloud libraries. It's a paper texture that I created, but you can create your own or you can just use something that's already here. Likewise, in the text section, if you are not, like if you're like me and you perhaps are not a lettering pro, you need help with your layout and with coming up with interesting ways to display text. There's all these lockups that are available for you to just choose, and then you can just customize the text. So if you see something you like, you can open it up, customize the color, customize the text, and it looks like you designed it.
Yeah.
Which I love, because as much as I am a creative person, I wouldn't call myself like a type designer or a graphic designer. So this really empowers me to be able to create things that I think are like top quality design level that I'm happy to put out into the world without having to have those skills or experience. I really like that. It kind of democratizes design in a way that's really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just so nice to even just start with a design rather than a blank slate. That's one of the main things I really quite like. The one thing I used Express for was like a birthday invitation. And it was so good for that, because it's like, well, Flynn, you're a designer. You have to design the invitation. I'm like, oh my God, I don't have time for this. And I was like, you know what? I can use Express for it. Typed an invitation and just picked one. Brought in an image of the dinosaur, changed the text. Off it goes. Good. And it was done.
And speaking of text, you're really good at segueing.
Accidental segueing, yeah.
There's so many ways that you can sort of edit text within here. So you can choose from all of the Adobe fonts, literally all of them. I don't have them all loaded in here because, as we know, there are thousands. I just have some of my favorites put in, but you can also access, if you've put in your brand stuff within the brand tool, all of your brand fonts and things will come up at the very top, making it like super easy for you to just change it to your brand font, for example.
Yeah.
So you can also amend things like, you know, the spacing, the sizing, you know, just as you would in any kind of text editing interface of any other program. You can change, you can have sort of special, I guess, what do you call this? I guess it's like a lockup, or it's like a different sort of text treatments that are already available to you without having to like work out how that works. I'll go back to the curve. They also recommend fonts to you, which is kind of how I came up with the font that I sort of chose for this remixed version, because as I was making it, it suggested it to me and I was like, oh, I like that. So I just used it. We'll see if I can recreate this and remember all the different things to make it look exactly the same, but it probably won't. But anyway,
it can be
a
bit different. That's
yeah, you'll get the gist.
We just had a question, sorry, just before we move on, because I know it's been there for a little bit. Would these animations export as a GIF or a video file? Probably jumping ahead, I'm sure we'll get to that, but.
So I will jump ahead just real quick. So if you could click download, they download as a 720p MP4.
Yeah. Cool.
So that's pretty good, because then you can use it across like multiple different apps and stuff like that afterwards. Because you know how sometimes like GIFs don't translate through to Instagram, for example.
Yeah.
So it's good to be able to just have it as a video file.
Yeah.
All right. So then there's lots of different other sort of things you can do. There's different shapes that you can put in the background behind your text. It's hard to see there because let's just make it pink. Oh, see, as you can see here, when I click on any kind of color palette, I can choose or add my own hex codes, but also it brings up all of my brand colors immediately at the top. And it also brings up the current palette based on the imagery and stuff that's available in your template. So it's suggesting colors to you, which I know some people, like, I love color and use it every day, but some people find it challenging to figure out what colors go together and stuff like that. So this kind of
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I'm the opposite. Like, I'll have to basically start with a color palette before I do anything. because I'm not creative in that sense. It's like a total Achilles heel. So I'll find like a color palette, and then if I don't have one already, and bring that into the project before I do any design, because I'm like, cool, that looks good, I'm going to use that and just work with it until it works. Yeah.
One thing that is a tip, if you are not as confident with your colors, I always just, when I'm out and about in the world, I take photos of things that I like the look of. So like if it's just a color in a shop window display or something like that, I'll take a picture of it and then I'll just pop it in to Photoshop or Illustrator and just sample the colors and create my own swatches.
Oh, cool.
Based on like cool stuff I've seen in the wild. And I think like that can be a really good way to build up a library of color palettes that you can have. You can just create a document in Illustrator and just have it there and just refer to it anytime you need a cool color combo.
That's a great idea. Do you keep the image as well so you know where it came from, or are you just keep
the images are in a folder?
Yeah.
But I usually just pull the colors out, because then I find like it doesn't restrict you with the context. Like there's no context, so you just see the colors. You know?
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm just having a look at what I did with this. Okay. So you can also create an outline, which is what I'm going to do now with this text. And you can adapt kind of like how thick you want the outline to be. You can adapt where your shadow is going to go and stuff. But to make this a little bit more easy to see, I might replace the background just now, so you can kind of, we can start to bring this artwork to life as I'm kind of explaining the different elements. So if you want to replace a background, you hit replace, and you can either choose from the backgrounds available that I showed you before, or you can, if you've got something in your library already, you can choose from there. So I've got these paper textures that I've uploaded previously in all sorts of different colors. Now, what did I use before? We had pink. I'm going to choose, see if I can get the same one. Let's just say it was this one. I don't know. We're going a bit rogue, Flynn. So while that loads in, so if your files are quite big and you have Australian internet, it might take a little bit of time to load in this beautiful texture. But
you're streaming at the same time, which wouldn't help the load time.
There you go. Thank you. But while that's doing its thing, you can actually just still keep working. So so there it is. It's loaded in. Now you can edit any kind of image that you put in Express, much like you can in Photoshop, with some of the, like, they kind of give you all the, I guess, most used editing tools that might be most common. So because I had previously edited that white backdrop, it's brought in the same enhancement settings as before, but I just want to kind of like change those a little bit, because this is a different color. So we want to like bump up the warmth a bit more, maybe make it like a bit more bright. I think I like that. It's very Valentine's-y. And so then there's also filters available too, all different kinds. The one that's really interesting is the multiply, which is, I guess you would have, if you've used Photoshop, you know, or Illustrator, sorry, you know the multiply function. It's the same thing. I find that's on a background's not so much as strong of an effect, obviously, but I like to use these different filters for any kind of objects or design assets that I'm putting in on top of a background. But we're not going to use that today. I'm going to turn that off. It's
good to know that multiply's in there. Like, that's our go-to, right? Like, so often, like, people are showing all the adjustment layers, and they're like, there's all these different things you can do. We're going to use multiply. It's like,
it's just multiply. Like it's lasted the test of time. Like it is a good tool.
It's the go-to.
So I think I'm going to like go rogue again. I'm not going to use my brand font, which is shocking, because I know we were talking about strong brand identity, but I kind of just want to like play around, and I know like it suggested this awesome one for me, but I don't know what that is. So I'm just going to choose a new one.
Pick another one. All good.
Yeah. I kind of like that. I mean, we'll play around with this a bit later. So now I wanted to talk to you about the shapes library. So there are thousands of shapes available, so that you don't have to create them yourself in Illustrator if you don't want to. You can just search things, and like there's shapes and icons as well. So, you know, I used a shape for this arch that we see here, and I found it by just typing in arch in my original template design. But let's just say you want, like, I don't know, let's see what happens when you write Valentine. Look at all the different things.
Yeah.
So, and the good thing about the shapes library is that you can adapt they don't have to be black. So you can change the color of the outline or color of the film. So that's awesome because you can really customize it. I mean, I could just keep scrolling through that forever, but I digress. We're going to go back to the template. So that's where I got this arch from. But because this is a template I'm remixing, I've decided I want to keep the arch. So I'm just going to change the color. So I've actually grouped these two arch shapes together. So in order to edit them, I'm just going to ungroup them. And then this is also really good, this little panel here, if you want to just drag to adjust the layers and where they sit in relation to each other. You can just drag things up and down. So like that.
Easy.
Oh, yeah, very easy. And it just helps you see what all your layers are. And then if it's got a little number on it, that means that that layer is a group. So we're just going to change this to yellow. And I like it. It's brought in like a yellow from my artwork already. So I'm just going to keep that because it's a cute.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you didn't bring that color yellow in yourself. It's
no, that was suggested.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
suggested from.
Suggestion seems to be like across the app, right? Like everywhere. Like
yeah. And it's great because, like I said, it's saving you time. Like you don't have to worry about trying to come up with all these things yourself. You know, let's just say you have 5 minutes to create an asset for social media because you forgot you had to post today.
Yeah.
Just do it like this.
Just
really
do it super quick. Yeah. It's almost like having a hovering art director that's really polite. Like, keep thinking about it because it's like the suggestions of different fonts. Like that's feedback that I got for years, right? Like, which is cool. What do you think about this design? They're like, try it with a sans serif font, try it with a serif, try a couple of different color combinations, and then come back. And then you go off and you do that, and then you come back and you present them all, and then the art director would go, yeah, that one, do that one, and then you go back and you clean it all up, and then that will be the one you use. And it's like having a really polite little art director in your
pocket.
Yeah.
And I will say, something I said yesterday, which I should mention again, is that I'm using the web app version of Express right now, or the desktop version, I should say. But you can actually use it on your tablet or on your phone.
Right.
So you can create content on the go if you're away, or if you prefer to work on an iPad, for example, or on a phone, you can. So
cool.
There's slight variances in like the tools that are available across each one, but the functionality is pretty much like full across all of them. But experiment. Also, there's slight differences between Android and iPhone, but not by much. So I just encourage you to have a play around. You know, like for example, on an iPhone or an iPad, you can utilize Giphy and import in animated stickers Giphy into your projects.
Right.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I just wanted to show you also with the background again, you can actually increase the zoom. So I really want this paper texture to come out. So I'm just going to make the paper a little bit more zoomed in.
All right. So you can see the like almost granular, like the texture a little bit more. Right. Yeah.
We're all about like, I'm trying to make this as handmade looking as possible kind of thing. So I've just kind of gone ahead and like, I like this template and I don't really have much to change in terms of the way my text is laid out. I just kind of want to change the font because I don't know what I was thinking when I first designed this, but that's not going to be very readable as much as I love that Western font.
Alessandra in chat was saying she loves this font as well, and I also love it.
It's gorgeous, isn't it?
It's very cute.
Like imagine, it's my 40th birthday this year and I'm having a cowboy themed party. So I'm definitely going to use that font.
Oh, it's perfect.
For the invites to my cowboy themed birthday. But I'm changing it to Cooper because I'm a basic girl at heart and I just can't go past this classic 70s font. I don't know what you feel about Cooper, but I like it.
I love Cooper.
I've always liked
really
it.
Really nice. It is super legible as well for like the font that it is.
And it's very nostalgic. It's very nostalgic. So these shapes, these squiggly lines are actually shapes from the shape library. So this, I'll show you here, like you can just change, what color did I do those? Pink. Okay. So you can just change them just by clicking that. So that's really cool. You don't have to like redraw a squiggly line or anything like that. And so if you want to change the text, you just type it into this box. So we're just going to say this was yesterday. And you just type it up in there, and then you can sort of like, adjust the
Oh, may have lost Kit for a second there. Lost you for a second there.
Yeah. I'm back though. Can you hear me now?
You're back? It's all good. It's just reloading. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
That was good. We got away with that for 35 minutes with no issues is pretty good.
Flynn and I, just for background context, have a really like funny relationship with internet connections when we do lives together.
Yeah. We're getting better. We're getting better.
Yeah. I feel like we had to prove ourselves to the internet gods or something, and now they're like, okay, these people are legit.
Yeah.
So where was I? Okay, I was just talking about Cooper, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now, instead of, I want to show you how the brand tool works within a project. So instead of writing the location of this supposed workshop, I actually want to just put my logo down the bottom. So in the left-hand side menu that I showed you before, you can click on this logos button, and it brings up all the logos or brand elements that you had previously loaded into the brand tool earlier. So this is my logo here. I mean, I have lots of different kinds of, I've got these icons and I've got like a portrait and things like that. But today we're just going to use my straight up logo. And because I had put it in the settings that anytime I use my logo, I want it to go into the bottom left of my artwork, it immediately puts it there.
Oh,
that's
really?
Like my yeah. So if you remember, let me go back and show you. Oops, we'll just let that refresh. In the brand tool, there is this section at the bottom. Let's go in here where you can personalize how your logo and tagline are displayed. So you can say, okay, I want it to be, on the left or whatever, and you can edit it and sort of like move it around and things like that.
That's really useful. Like if
you can do that for
always doing, because like obviously on social and how it's displayed and where buttons are, it's always good to have the same stuff in the same spot, like not have things cut off, and sometimes you want things up the bottom or the top. That's pretty cool.
It's all about like I guess like repetition of your brand elements to just drill home to people all the time, like that it's you, and create a really recognizable visual identity anywhere you happen to be online. I mean, one thing I really, tooting my own horn here, but one thing I really like love hearing from people is that they'll say, I saw something in the window of whatever store and I knew it was you.
It was yours. Yeah.
You. Or I saw a design pop up on an ad for a client or for a brand or whatever, and I knew that you designed it.
Right. And just from the visual, like, because they're so used to your brand and seeing.
And the way that I use, like the way that I lay things out, the way that I use color, like, and so I guess that's an example of, it is really important to try and to reinforce your brand identity, like at all times.
Yeah.
And you can have a lot of control over that in your own marketing because you're the one that gets to decide how each of your assets looks.
Yeah. That's cool.
And so using templates like this, for example, is a really good way to just continually reinforce that, because you can create things that look the same every single time based on the same. So, okay, this is where we're at. Let's have a look at this again. I think now is time to add our fun little like felt elements into our design and see how they work with the animation. Now, one thing I want to say about this particular animation, let's have a look at them first of what all the different options are for animating. So I love this because I am not an After Effects user. I'm learning how to use it, and I can't wait to see how I can sort of take some of my handmade elements and transform them using After Effects. I'm really excited about that. I think I'd love to try and do like felt collage animation. I think that would be really interesting. Watch this space, but as yet I have not mastered it. So I don't need to know how to use After Effects to animate certain elements of my project because I've got all these different things here. So there's photo animation. So that's kind of what I'm using, this pan one here. There's lots of different options. I'm going to show you what they all do. So when I press play, this is what happens. And so I think I really like that. That's a really sort of dynamic, beautiful little animation there with those flowers. So the way that I achieved that was that if you want, usually when you choose the pan function, it will pull them straight across from one direction like this.
Right.
But a little hack, if you like the pan function and you want to use it to create something that looks like this, is I took this group here and literally just copy pasted like this, and then just like rotated it round. You can see there's a little arrow tool there. So it's a mirror image. It's a copied mirror image of what's up there. And when it's a copied mirror image, that's when it pulls things in from the opposite direction. So that's a little hack that I learned just from doing.
So just to ask again, just to make sure I'm following. So you added the animation to the one on the top left, and because it had the animation already, you duplicated it after that and then turned it around, and so the animation was the other way around?
So basically, I didn't. So this is no animation, and if you want to choose animation, like it's the pan one, you just apply it, and it just applies it to the background and the major sort of like added elements.
Right.
So it won't do it to everything. There's different internal secret Adobe Express rules about that they like, or like algorithms about what they choose to animate. I love to experiment and just see what I can do with things. But when it pulls in from both sides like that, it's because the graphic that's animating is a mirror image on the bottom end.
Yeah.
But for this design, because I have the shadows going in one place, I can't mirror image this. And because the hearts are directional, I couldn't create a mirror image. So I just had to replace my assets in there on the side. And so when I choose the pan feature, it does it from one side only.
Right.
So that's just a little interesting tidbit that I thought I'd share. But let's have a look at what happens if I added, like, if I want to do text animation instead. So this can be fun because it's like a reveal. So this is like the typewriter tool. I use this one a lot in my animation. So it will always animate the biggest font or the biggest sized text first, and then it will bring up the others. That's kind of how that algorithm or rule works for that.
Right.
And then there's this other one, which is more of a reveal. There's this dynamic one where you can kind of like have things flash on and off. And you can really play around with this. Like, let's just say you had a design that kind of looked like a neon light.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking of, right?
Yeah, like this flicker one could be really cool for that.
Yeah.
Because you could sort of like maybe you are the Vegas Neon Sign Museum and you want to create an asset to advertise like an event. I think that one would be really
It's like
awesome.
a very specific use case, but I totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there's like this color change one, which can be awesome as well. I kind of like that too. You can make it grow, which is cool. Slide. So there's lots of different things you can do. I mean, there's fade, there's different color change ones. There's a zoom function, which is pretty interesting as well. It's kind of
works with the flowers like quite well.
Yeah, we might actually do that for our changed one. So anyway, I digress. That was animation. I think it's really cool. I encourage you to just play around and experiment with your own designs on how you can, tweak those animations and make them work for you. So let's have a look at, we want to put some images in here, like from my felt cutouts. So there's one way that you can do that. You can click on an image you want to, I guess, replace with something else, and then go up here to the right-hand side and click replace. And then you can choose from either the shape library or the design assets library, which I'm going to show you in a second, or your library. So I'm going to go into my Valentine's Day one, and there's, all my different things that I prepared yesterday. So you just click on the one that you want to replace and it just pops it in. That's
so great.
Yeah, which is cool.
You don't have to redo.
No, and I will say though, like if if I put in here the hand, it might cut it off because the original was smaller. So
so it's like clipped it. It's like a cropping mask.
It's clipped it. But in that case, all you have to do is just go into your libraries and click on it anyway, and it'll just pop it in for you anyway.
Right.
So it's still just the click of a button, so it's still really easy.
Cool.
So I'm just gonna quickly pop a few things in. And then we might play around with the layering of like of all of the different ones to see how they look like sort of arranged on top of each other.
Yeah. I've got a question while you're doing that. Alessandra asks, Kit, if you were not the amazing designer you are today, what other career do you think you would be doing?
Oh, thank you for that compliment. Well, this is so left field, but I've always been obsessed with archaeology. My uncle was an archaeologist, and he used to take us to the museums that he worked at, and I just thought that his life and his work was so fascinating. I love history, but I'm terrible at science and math, so I want to say archaeologist, but I feel like I probably wouldn't have passed my exams.
Maybe more of an Indiana Jones style, like archaeologist, where it's more action and like less paperwork.
Yeah, more adventure.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more the like learning about different cultures. So maybe anthropologist could have worked. As well. But that's quite academic. I think I probably still would have been doing something creative. But maybe, I've never thought about it. I mean, I did for a long time, like I play a few instruments, and I've been in lots of bands, and music was a huge part of my life. Probably the most major part until I started my own business and kind of had to like put it on the back burner because, as you might know, businesses take up a lot of time and energy.
It's hard to find the time to perfect the trumpet. When you're running a business. I get it.
Yeah. So I might have done something to do with music. That's quite a possibility. Yeah. That's a great question, though.
It's a great question.
Okay. So I've just popped a few things into the corner. Ooh, I kind of like that growy vibe. So, because I'm lazy, I'm just going to copy paste all of these things, and then I'm just going to rearrange them up the top to save me from just having to put them all in one by one again. We're just going to kind of do a real quick arrange. And then I want to play around with like the layering a little bit.
Cool.
Okay, so there we go. So now I want to open this up. I actually think I might just group these just to make it easier to, I guess, like play around with them.
Right.
You might see here when you've got a selection of things, you have these options as you do in other Adobe programs to align them in different ways. So if that's something that, if you want to get things all straight up and down in a straight line, like that's where you'd find that tool as well.
Nice.
But I just want to...
It's good to see that stuff that's like the same from other programs. So it's like, hey, if you're coming from Photoshop or if you're coming from Illustrator, this is exactly the same thing. It looks the same.
Yeah.
It's got the same icon. It behaves in the same way. So you just go, oh, okay, that's comforting.
And they've really, like, I think this is really important as a user because you don't want to have to relearn a brand new program. And I think that is the great thing about all of the Adobe programs is that you will see repetition in the types of like what's the word, like tools or ways of doing things. It's like it's sort of like you're speaking a similar like a dialect of the same language.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't have to be like, so like copy paste, is the same in Photoshop as it is in Illustrator, as it is in Express.
Yeah.
So it's not like you open up this program and all of a sudden you're starting from scratch with trying to understand how it works.
Yeah, it'd be so hard to balance. Like I remember when I first started Adobe, I was like, someone's going to tell me why the shortcuts aren't exactly the same across all the apps. And someone told me once, and it was because people that use just single apps they don't want it to change, or it might be better, like the more common shortcuts, are really appropriate for when you're editing in Premiere Pro, for example. Like it wouldn't make any sense like for that. So it would...
Interesting.
Yeah. So always found that interesting.
This is like, we've got a little bit of a, like, it's having so much fun, it doesn't want me to end. So it's just doing its little spinning wheel there, but I'm just going to go over into this one. Since I prepared it earlier, and I just want to change my animation to this zoom because I liked that. Oh, I like that. It looks like the flowers are growing.
We're not seeing it just yet. It might be trying to catch up while we're streaming and trying to do things at the same time.
Oh, okay. Oh, we're having another internet issue, aren't we?
Yeah. So, okay, we can see, I think we can see it now. You might have to close the one we were just working on. I think because it's still trying so hard.
All right, I'm leaving that. All right, what about this? Can you see this?
Yeah. Yeah, we're good now.
Okay, good. Okay. So anyway, the last thing I was going to do is just add in that little felt hand there to complete my little artwork. So that's that. Now, if I want to save that as a sort of dynamic moving tile for Instagram, I'd obviously download it as a MP4, or you can just download it as a PNG or a JPEG if you just want it to be still, and it obviously will just have the finished version. It won't have any of the sort of like opacity or anything of the animation.
Yeah.
But one more thing I wanted to show you is if you love this and you want to create, let's just say like a story tile version, you can hit this resize button on the right here, and it gives you all these other options for different sizes of commonly used assets.
Yeah, that's super useful.
Oh yeah, because I mean, how many times have we just Googled okay, I'm speaking for myself here. What size is A4?
I do it all the time. I do it all the time. I'm like double checking what HD is, and I know what it is, but I'm like, I'm just gonna make sure that I get it right. It's like, what size is 4K? What size is Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff? I always check.
Oh, I'm glad it's not just me. We need to actually have that written on a little post-it on our computer frame.
Yeah, it'd be way too long. Yeah, let's get the computer to sort it out for us. Yeah.
But I mean, so here it'll give it to you anyway, which is cool in pixels. So let's just say I want to change it. I want to make a matching Instagram story. I just click the button, and now all I have to do is just adjust slightly a few things and make it, like fit a story tile. And because it's so convenient. Easy to do, I love it because, like I said, you could actually create a whole suite of assets in an hour or something like that to promote this workshop that you're doing.
Yeah.
So I really like that.
It's so good. Yeah, it's just so convenient. There's only a few minutes left, by the way. I've only got about 3 minutes left. Time does fly. Yeah.
So there's that, and then you can make that a video, and now you've got a story as well.
And it's so quick.
Yeah.
Just so quick. I guess it's in the name. That's why they didn't call it Pocket Rocket like we spoke about.
So that brings me to the end of my little project, which is great timing.
It is great timing. Look at that, to a minute or two. I just wanted to also mention, because we're chatting about exporting as well. So like exporting as MP4. Even I was going to say you can easily convert like a video to a GIF, and then I remembered, oh yeah, you can even do that in Express. So if you wanted to, you can just switch it around really quickly. If you did want a GIF,
convert to GIF.
There we go.
Click that, and then you just drag and drop your video, and it will just convert it for you, and then you can download it.
Yeah. So there we go. Yeah, it's always good to have like the video version. There's so much more data in a video version, but yeah, much easier to convert that to a GIF than vice versa. But this was awesome. I love jumping around in Adobe Express with you, Kit, and we only have one dropout, which is really good.
For us, I'd say that is a success.
That's like the best ever, and we will continue to get better when we'll have you on again down the track, and we've had a great time. Thank you everybody in chat, hanging out with us, and people watching later on demand and everything. Hey Kit, where can people find more about you? I know some of the folks in chat were talking about how much they love the color on your website. I'm sure you get that a lot.
Thank you. That's so nice. So kitiyapalaskas.com is my website, and I'm at Kitiya Palaskas on most social medias like Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. So feel free to send me a DM or say hi. I'd love to hear from you guys.
Awesome. All right. Well, check out Kit, and we'll be back with more Adobe Live next week, and we hope you can join us. Thanks again, Kit.
Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone. Have a nice day. Can I stop sharing my screen?